Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more groovy videos. Now if you'll excuse me, we got a war to win.
Alright guys, I'm back with another video and I'm going to be giving my thoughts and opinions on the Transformers films and whether it can hopefully be saved in the future. This video is from Perspective N and he's one of my favorite Transformers YouTube channels who you should go check out. He also makes way better content than me. I hope he sees this one day and give his personal thoughts on the video, but let's not waste any more time and get right into it.
Now, I'm sure that a good number of you have heard by this point that Rise of the Beast was a box office failure.
Unfortunately, yes. It really sucks how that movie turned out because, for the most part, I understand the reason why concerning this film is called Rise of the Beast, which I've been thinking, why was it called Rise of the Beast in the first place when you literally put half of the Transformers, well, you put half of the Beast Wars characters into this film. Yes, you have Beast Wars characters, but it felt like that something should have been made revolving around the Beast Wars characters instead of having them on a sideline. My initial thoughts were having some of the Beast Wars characters travel back in time where you have a small group of Maximals to protect Optimus Prime from being assassinated by a small group of Predacons or the Terracons. They managed to put Prime in a coma, but each time that Optimus Prime fades, time alters as well. That will change the Beast Wars history as well. I don't know, like, it could have been something similar like that.
A complete burning disaster, but when the movie cost almost $200 million to make, and then it probably cost another $200 million to market, making just over $400 million is not what you want. As far as the film industry is concerned, breaking even is basically the same as losing money. And the simple fact of the matter is, the Transformers movies were in trouble before that, and it's really because they keep making all the wrong decisions. So let's figure out how to save this franchise before it goes the way of the dodo. This isn't going to be like one of my fixing videos where I tell you the story I would have made with the same mandates as the creators already had making that piece of media. Instead, this is going to be me charting out how to right the sinking ship that is the movie franchise. I'm not going to come up with my own story. At best, I'm going to talk about elements that need to be applied to the franchise as a whole, and elements that need to be...
The best way that you can make a Transformers movie is just get rid of all the crap that Michael Bay did with the sexualization of female characters, the nonsensical continuity errors. Another thing to get rid of is just like, stop with the MacGuffin stuff. Everyone is starting to hate that. They've been hating that since, what, like The Last Jedi or something? And you guys have been doing this since 2007. You started with the Cube, you started with the Matrix of Leadership, you started with the Pillars, you started with the Seed from Age of Extinction, and you started with Merlin's staff. At this point, it's getting repetitive and getting really, really tiring. Other factors that need to be in Transformers movies is character development. There's tons of Transformers characters, and you hardly do anything with them. Sometimes you literally just have them in the background somewhere doing nothing, or you just have them sidelined doing something else while the other characters get the spotlight. I really like what Rise of the Beast did with Mirage because I really find his character very interesting. I like Optimus Prime's character even though he was kind of a douchebag. I even like Optimus Prime way more out of all the characters. And one more thing to add is that not everything needs to be on Earth. It's okay to have the Transformers be sent out somewhere other than planet Earth. Have a movie that's set on Cybertron, or have a movie where the Autobots are stranded on a planet and they're trying to figure out how to get off of it. Meanwhile, they're being pursued by Decepticons.
Completely excised. The bulk of this video is going to be about identifying and explaining the different issues I see plaguing the future of this series, so that way you understand why I make the recommendations I do at the end. And I feel it's important that we break up these issues between elements that hurt Rise of the Beasts, elements that Rise of the Beast did to hurt the future of the films, and potential elements that in a vacuum may hurt anything in theaters with the title Transformers. So let's start with that last category, because they are the hardest to account for and the greatest existential threats. So the first, and quite possibly most terrifying if you're a fan of this franchise, is the appetite for the Transformers movies may just be gone. Whether the zeitgeist just moved on its own is hard to tell. There is a potential that society just doesn't want Transformers anymore because of some broader cultural shift.
I'm just being real with you guys. If it wasn't for Hasbro breathing down Michael Bay's neck and trying to get him to produce more Transformers films, because Michael Bay clearly wanted to be done with after Dark of the Moon, but Hasbro was money hungry. Michael Bay was clearly done with the Transformers franchise, but Hasbro saw Michael Bay as the golden goose, and they wanted him to keep making more so they could keep getting more money.
Look at how cowboy movies were all the rage in the 50s and 60s, and then those just stopped making money out of the blue, never to be 1/10 as big a deal again.
I agree to a certain extent because this sounds like, and it comes across as the superhero fatigue line that I'm hearing. And personally, that's a blatant lie. If that's the case, where's the horror movie fatigue? Where's the comedy, romance, disaster, mystery, and action movie fatigue? Look at Guardians 3, Spider-Verse, and the Batman. Hell, let's go even further. My Adventures of Superman, The Boys, Invincible, Peacemaker, Moon Knight, Werewolf by Night. People are not tired of superhero films, they're tired of dog shit superhero films. And dog shit superhero properties, because they're making dog shit material. Not to mention there were plenty of superheroes way before the MCU and DCEU. No one complained back then. And don't say they weren't popular enough, because that's another blatant lie. The reason why the movies, including superhero films, are garbage is because the CGI is becoming atrocious, the writing half of the times are mid and generic, some of the characters we've grown to love are being rebooted, remaked, and being put into unnecessary sequels that no one asked for. Another thing to add is that they're not diversifying their genres enough. And lastly, I could be wrong about this, but the MCU and DCEU are focusing on quantity over quality, and they're not letting us digest their properties enough, doing pump and dumps. They're basically just like throwing things at us and seeing what sticks. Just give us competent writing, stories that mean something to the audience, show and tell us characters that we care about who aren't annoying and pointless. Fans could come up with way better writing than the actual writers because they have way more passion. I'm sorry for going off topic, but I just had to get that out there.
Also, another distinct possibility that requires me to preface something. You can never be wrong for what you feel towards anything. Your feelings towards that thing can never be incorrect. You can love a good thing and hate a bad thing, or hate a good thing and love a bad thing, for whatever reason it engenders those emotions in you. However, in the same breath, that doesn't make what you hate bad or what you love good. Objective quality exists, and it is completely separate from how you feel about something. You can feel whatever way you do about anything, regardless of the quality of that thing. You can't be wrong for that. Now, I say all that to prepare you for this next part. The Transformers movies fucking suck. Up until Bumblebee, they all sucked.
I mean, to say they suck is an understatement because despite how hated they are, the film still manages to pull in money that gives them success. Fans and non-fans have a weird liking to these movies for mostly obvious reasons. And why is that? Well, my only possible guess is that the action scenes, the CGI, the score, and the quote-unquote realism of Michael Bay's Transformers designs. And people ate that up. Those are the only things that they care about.
Up until Bumblebee, they all sucked. On a fundamental filmmaking level, they do everything wrong. In the first movie, Michaela is written to be the most sympathetic and complex character, but the framing of the movie just makes her into a piece of meat, and so she comes across like nothing more than a shallow sex object. The characters are directed to act obnoxiously, the color grading is nauseating, the humor is juvenile, the plots are difficult to follow, every character behaves irrationally and illogically at all times, canon and consistency just don't exist, and
Yes, I completely agree with that. Because what's even more baffling is that if you watch other Michael Bay films, half of the characters are way more tame than the ones in the Bayverse. And it fucking sucks they had to turn a whole bunch of human characters into smooth-brained idiots no one wants to see.
I could go on and on, but I want you to understand that this is not a criticism of you if you like these movies. You can find them hilarious. That'd be fine. You can relate to the characters who never act logically. Hopefully it's not because you also never act logically, but it's okay if you relate to them. You may love the soundtrack or find the way these movies look to be super cool. None of that is wrong of you to feel. However, all those elements are handled badly in these movies. And it's fine if you hate the Bumblebee movie, which is the only one of these films that is doing just about everything right. But the fact of the matter is, the Bay films are terrible, and even many of the people who liked them found that they wore on them over time. Or they watched them for the first time in 10 years and were like, wow, I don't like this at all. I remember these being good. So, there is a very serious chance that people are just burnt out on the Transformers films and are not willing to trust them again. Age of Extinction was propped up.
Like, they're not burnt out, it's just that they're tired of the same repetitive Transformers, garbage stuff that's being pumped and dumped. Like, people are really tired of the humans, people are tired of the MacGuffins, people, are tired of seeing humans hogging up all the screen time, meanwhile the Transformers are like in the sidelines. And people are really tired of other Transformers getting sidelined. Like the Maximals, for example, and RC and Wheeljack, Pablo, his name's Pablo.
By it being a Chinese co-production, but even most Bay fans don't like that one. And then the person who says that The Last Night is unironically enjoyable is a rare one indeed. After so many films in a row where people were asked to sit there with their brain in their hands and watch keys jingle on screen, audiences just might not be willing to trust these movies anymore. And this is why these two reasons are the biggest threat to the future of the franchise. If the movies being bad was the cause, the only way to change public opinion on them would be to release great movie after great movie and hope that they can mend people's opinions. And if the zeitgeist just moved on, then you're fucked. There's nothing you can do. You can't force culture to align with the Transformers again. So we are going to ignore those as factors and just hope they're not true, because the only alternative is to try making Transformers movies again in 20 years, and hope that culture has shifted back by then. Okay, with that established, we are going to look at what specifically we can point to as elements that hurt Rise of the Beasts and what Rise of the Beasts did to hurt the franchise. Well, for starters, Hasbro just straight fucked up the marketing for Rise of the Beasts.
Yeah, the marketing for Rise of the Beasts was really fucking awful. Did anyone remember back then, from the Bayverse, when it was doing the whole marketing shit? Does anyone remember all the commercials for Burger King and Transformers combinations? Does anyone else remember the M&Ms where they dress up like the Transformers? My favorite one was the Ironhide M&M. I think it was the blue one that dressed up like Ironhide. There's a video from My Friendly Space Ninja, and he talked about the filming productions and how expensive they are as fuck, and studios are doubling their budget hoping to make back from the fans. And if they want to succeed, they need to spend at least 50 or 100 million instead of going overboard like 150 or 200 million, because that is something that could fuck up their plans. I could be wrong, but in order to surpass 400 million, you need to gain at least 800 million.
They basically spent hundreds of millions of dollars to make people not care about this movie. And first and foremost, the problem was, there were no fucking trailers for this movie forever. And I talked to a lot of people who were super happy about that, saying stuff like, man, I'm sure glad they aren't doing trailers. I'm so sick of them just doing hundreds of trailers to the point where you can see the whole plot in the previews. Well, I'm sorry, but quite frankly, it doesn't fucking matter what you're sick of. Without trailers, Johnny Normie off the street doesn't know that this movie is getting made.
I'm sorry, but I had to disagree, because I agree with the other people that says that they're not into the movie trailers. But I can understand from your perspective, no pun intended, but I hate movie trailers nowadays because they basically spoil the whole damn movie. I mean, look at what the Bayverse done with their trailers. They did it in a way that's way fucking better. They made it into a semi-thriller horror kind of vibe, and they send out at least like 3 trailers, keeping it very intrigued. I'm not against movie trailers, I'm just against movie trailers spoiling the whole damn movie. The Rise of the Beast trailer pretty much explained 85% of what was going to happen in the damn movie. It's even more dumb that they show Bumblebee die. It's even more dumb that they killed him in general again. I'm calling it right now. Bumblebee is going to die again in the next Transformers film, and it's going to be fucking annoying.
The only people who do know in that scenario are Transformers fanatics like us. And if you didn't know this movie was getting made, Hasbro was just not interested in telling you, as evidenced by the fact that the teaser trailer for the movie came out a mere 6 months before the film did, and then the first actual trailer came out 4 months after that, at which point, hey, everyone who was super glad that they didn't include everything about the movie in a million trailers, guess what? Basically every other day there was a new trailer showing more and more of the movie. So hey, no one is happy. You didn't get your wish, and the movie had too little marketing to be successful. Now let me explain what I meant by Hasbro spent a lot of money making people forget that this movie existed. The very first thing Hasbro did was put marquees in theaters and have a lot of murals painted on buses and on walls. This was basically the only way the movie was advertised for like a year. And here's the problem. That kind of advertisement only works the first time you see it. Once you've already seen it, you start tuning it out as visual noise. You may look at it, but you don't really think about it anymore. The point of those advertisements is to make you find the trailer. At which point, whoops, there's no trailer to find until 2 months before the movie came out. At which point, everyone had already seen the marquees and the posters and the murals 100 times each, and they stopped caring about them when the first time they looked up Rise of the Beasts trailer, they found either nothing or only a teaser that gave you no sense of the movie. So therefore, they never went out and watched the hundreds of trailers Hasbro put out in the last 2 months. Great job, guys! The second problem Rise of the Beasts faced is that Hasbro doubled the budget of the Bumblebee movie, and then they expected double the return because of it. But in what world does that make sense? Just because you spend more money on making a movie does not mean that more people are going to go see it. Bumblebee made $400 million at the box office. That's your baseline. That's what you should expect the next movie to make, which guess what it did? Make your movie so $400 million yields an actual return.
Movies in general need to start at a low budget so they don't fuck themselves over, because they're practically gambling and jumping the shark when it comes to spending a whole bunch of money in hopes of getting the money back.
And if it then makes 600 this time, great! You made even more. And next time you are allowed to make a movie where 600 is what you expect. So that's what Hasbro did to fuck this movie over specifically. Now let's talk about what Rise of the Beasts did to fuck over Transformers as a wider franchise. And I've had to go over this a few times, but Rise of the Beasts is the worst thing you could do as a stage 2 of a semi-rebooted universe. And don't fucking tell me that it's not semi-rebooted. It's obviously its own completely new, unique thing. How can you not see that the continuity is so different now, there's no way you could set it in the same universe? Okay then. Do you remember in the first movie when Optimus said that they learned English through the internet? Then in the second movie, it turned out the Autobots and Decepticons had been on Earth for tens of thousands of years and knew how to speak English because they learned it naturally? Remember in the fifth movie when it turned out that Bumblebee had been on Earth since at least the 40s and there was a painting of Optimus Prime hanging out with the Redcoats? The movies have always had completely contradictory shit continuity. From the second that you could call them movies, plural with an S. What about this time makes you think things are different? It's not about what makes sense, it's about what they're willing to do. And we've seen what they're willing to do before. And if you want to know what would prove to me that this is in fact a full true reboot, like even most Bay fans want at this point, seeing Megatron walking around before 2007, a movie set in 2010 where Jazz is still alive, seeing Sam Witwicky getting violently shot in the face in 2006, Bumblebee getting his voice back and keeping it. Look, the Bumblebee movie was a reset. The point was to establish a cinematic universe by going back to basics and getting rid of Unicron, because once you faced the complete end of the world, you can't raise the stakes again. That's part of the reason why the Marvel movies are floundering so hard in their post-Thanos phase. There's no more up to go. You've seen these characters tackle the ultimate calamity. Rebooting it so the threat is at worst an enemy army again is something the franchise desperately needed. And what does the second movie do? Brings back Unicron. Great, we rebooted the franchise for one movie, and immediately went crawling back.
Yeah, I had the same feeling when they announced that Unicron was going to be in Rise of the Beast. It just felt way too early.
Now, how limp will it feel if the next threat we face in these films is anything less than Unicron and the end of the world? And Optimus was obsessed with getting back to Cybertron. Sure, he learned to chill out by the end, but now that you've raised the ghost that they desperately need to get back, it has got to be part of the sequel. It's not like people stopped dying on the planet just because Optimus learned to not sacrifice Earth to get there. But they aren't going to make that movie. They aren't going to ditch Earth to save Cybertron in the live-action entries. It's too cheap to film here. So what, are they just going to pay lip service to this in every movie until they eventually forget, do it, or just have Meg show up himself and get killed so therefore the war's over? And this is where the elements kind of culminate into Hasbro's true mistake. Every idiot after Marvel who tried to start a cinematic universe missed the forest for the trees. They didn't understand the value of the thing that they were trying to get. It's like they all want to steal the crown of England so they can pry all the jewels off it and sell those.
It's sort of like they want to make a Krabby Patty, so they get the meat, the lettuce, the tomatoes, ketchup, onions, buns, pickles, and whatever, and they stack the burger wrong, and they completely forgot about the secret formula.
But also kind of the exact opposite of that. Numbnuts! The value of a cinematic universe is not that you get to make the Avengers movies, which you all seem to want to jump straight to with no build-up. The value of a cinematic universe is that you get to make a bunch of mid and lower mid-budget movies that people treat like giant blockbusters, because maybe there's some important scene in there for a later movie. You get to spend like $100 million on a movie and make like 500 to 600 on return every time, 3 to 5 times per year. Not the Avengers movies where every 3 years you spend $600 million and then make $1.2 billion. So this is the problem that the movies face, and it's also our solution. I'm sorry, ROTB fans, Rise of the Beasts just didn't happen. No one saw it anyways. We need to reboot again. And this time we aren't making the Avengers the first sequel. Instead, we do a bunch of smaller movies like Bumblebee again. 1 to 2 Autobots, a couple Decepticons, well written, well acted, no grand international vistas, no expensive globe-trotting adventures. You do stuff like a buddy cop movie with Ironhide, where they're trying to track down some kind of criminal who's getting help from the cons. A heist movie with Mirage, where they have to steal some technology before the cons steal it. A spy movie where some terrorist organization or country is using advanced Cybertronian-derived tech that Swindle probably sold them, and a James Bond guy needs to stop it. This is how you can introduce G.I. Joe to the mix rather than just crowbarring them into the end of ROTB.
This honestly sounds like a good idea, but let's be honest, let's be real here. No one fucking cares about G.I. Joe. After G.I. Joe Retaliation or the last G.I. Joe live action movie, what else did they do exactly? I mean, they tried bringing back Snake Eyes, but that movie flopped because I'm pretty sure that he talked and he wasn't supposed to talk. No one cared about them in the films. No one cared about them in the crossover comics with the Transformers. So why should anyone care about them? If they wanted to do the G.I. Joe stuff, they could have done it in the Bayverse, considering that, you know, the humans were literally hogging up all the spotlight.
CGI Cybertron movie. Do an all CGI Beast Wars movie like you should have done in the first place. You could do a sequel to Bumblebee, where the government recovers the remains of Shatter, Dropkick, and Blitzwing and combines them all in an attempt to make a military mech, thus creating animated Blitzwing. And that goes rogue for revenge on Bumblebee and to reestablish communication with the Khans again. This time, it's successful, and there's your Avengers movie. Next time, the war comes to Earth when the Khan army arrives. Hopefully by this point, people are treating you like you're making a cinematic universe. Keep it simple. Build towards something. Don't spend a lot of money when the box office isn't covering it. And make them good. So you know, if someone hands you a terrible script, just don't use it. Don't hire 4 other people to rewrite that script. Pay for scripts until one's not a train wreck. And for the love of God, the stakes of every movie cannot be the complete end of the world. You will fatigue people with that. Basically, make the D&D movie, and then hope that it doesn't flop on its face for no fair reason, because come on guys, why did you all sleep on that? It was tons of fun. That movie deserved to turn a profit.
Listen, man, I had a whole bunch of movies that I wanted to watch. I wanted to watch John Wick 4, which it's really freaking good. I wanted to see Shazam 2, but I heard people say that sucks. I saw Creed 3 with my mom, and it was actually good, and I hope that like that franchise stays dead. Not in a negative way, it's just like I don't want it to be rebooted or remade again. So come on, like you can't blame me when I have to watch all these other movies. And that's why a majority of the summer blockbuster movies flop. It's because they're competing with each other. They're trying to get people's asses in their seats so they can watch the film, spend money on popcorn and soda so they can enjoy the film. It's like, would you rather go to the movies and spend all this money, or would you rather wait for 2 months so you can watch it at home? And personally, I like going to the movies. But I'm not gonna spend like $40 or $50 just to see 3 movies that I want to see in 1 month.
Anyways, there's so much you can do with this franchise, and you keep squandering it with impatience. Maybe you're gonna tell me that I'm full of shit. And you know what? Maybe it's not even possible at this point. Hasbro is still in bad financial shape, and it's even worse now. They may not have the money to do even another low-budget film. If only they didn't fuck up Rise of the Beasts marketing so hard, if only they'd made it cheaper, and if only they didn't make it so hard to follow it up without spending even more money. For the record, you could and probably would have to use my plan here without erasing ROTB from the timeline. That just makes it so there's a weird second movie that has a lot of strange baggage that affects characters that you just couldn't address for a really long time. Long story short, Rise of the Beasts was not a bad movie, but it was the completely wrong turn to take the franchise. And if you liked it, I'm glad that you did, but I hope that you recognize the corner it put the films in going forward. And that we need a course correction. Something's gotta change, or Hasbro is going down in flames. And that's not half what I have to say, but it's enough what I have to say. And I know, you know, what everyone else tells you to do at the end of these videos. So, if you liked what you saw here, please do that. And if you'd like to take it a step further, then please, share this video with any friend you think may be interested. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me waste your time.
And yeah, I guess like that's overall my general thoughts on it. Like, I don't disagree with a majority of what he's saying. I do think there are a majority of things that's noticeable. Like, I do think that there are problems within the Transformers films that's just noticeable, and it's right there, clear, plain sight. And most fans just want to ignore it and just focusing on some of the other stuff that intrigues fans, like the action. What I think that's what's wrong with a Transformers film is that it's just regurgitating the same stuff over and over again that gets repetitive and annoying at the same time. Like, how many times do we hear about a Transformers MacGuffin that dates back millions of years ago? How many times do we have to hear about an ancient Transformer that was from 1,000 years ago? How many times do certain Transformers have to get sidelined? How many times do the humans have to take up all the screen time? I argue that Rise of the Beast did the human characters very well. It's way more tame than the Bayverse characters. But overall, I just think they're not making it intriguing enough for us to care. Like, for example, we care about the Transformers, and that is it. And when we're intrigued with a character that we like, we want to know everything about them. We want to know their personality, what they like, what they dislike, what are their hopes and dreams in the future. And that's something that most of the Transformers films missed on. The Bay films focus on Optimus Bumblebee, Jetfire, and Lockdown, but they don't focus on the other Transformers characters. In Rise of the Beast, they focus on Mirage and a little bit on RC. And Pablo was just left on the sideline. And how many times do we have to see about a human being that transformed for the first time? How many times do we have to see Transformers land on Earth? Why can't it be from a different planet? Why can't we just have a War for Cybertron live action film? Or just give us a Beast Wars movie where it's set in prehistoric times, and you just have the Beast Wars characters duking it out. there are a lot of Transformers fans that can make way better stuff than what Hasbro or Paramount can ever produce in a Transformers film. I watch a YouTube channel named Phoenix Studios, which I highly recommend to people, and he rewrites the first 3 Michael Bay films, and he makes them incredibly way better than initially it was. He gives them themes, character development / arcs, and different plots for each film to make it not seem repetitive. And guess what? How he tells the story is complete gas. It's one of the greatest Transformers storytellings I ever heard in my life. And again, I highly recommend that people go watch Phoenix Studios videos on him rewriting the Transformers Bayverse. Anyway, just let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Give the video a like, give the video a shout out, above all, give the channel a groovy subscriber.